Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Mighty Matt Podcast. I'm Matt Sterling, your host. Man, oh man, we got a good one today. I have a very special guest, my big sister, Amy Sterling. Amy is a physician's assistant who has been practicing in the Gainesville, Florida area for over 40 years. Given both our parents worked full-time, Amy was instrumental in my early childhood development and was even a counselor at my camp for disabled kids at the Toledo Society for the Handicapped, which is now the Ability Center. Amy has 4 kids, in addition to being an active working mom, shares her skills to people in need. She's been a first responder to multiple hurricane relief efforts, mentored women who have been victims of domestic violence, and been part of medical missions to Nicaragua, Puerto Rico, and so many others. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to the heart and soul of our family, Amy Sterling. Amy, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you, Matt?
I love it. I'm doing all right. It's a little rainy in LA, but you know, the plants need food too.
That's right.
So I thought I'd kick it off because I was always curious and would love your answer. When did you first realize you enjoyed caring for others? Was it like on the farm when you were working with animals, or when do you remember?
Yeah, I would say it was probably right around the time when you were born. I don't know that it was necessarily you being born that brought that to the surface, but yeah, I always loved animals and taking care of people. I think it was probably around age 4 or 5.
That's awesome. Do you remember your earliest memory of me being different or you understanding that I was disabled?
That's kind of a hard one because I really don't think you're all that different.
That's great.
I don't know what that says about our family. Maybe we're all a little quirky, but I think, there were a couple things that stick out. I really didn't understand why you couldn't go to my grade school
Okay.
because, you were 4 years behind
Sure.
and we would have been in the same school for a couple of years because it was kindergarten through 6th in Ohio. I just didn't understand when they were like, oh, well, there's a special school for people like that. I'm like, what kind of special school? I go to a special school. And then they were like, our school was 2-story. It's a fire hazard if there was an emergency or a fire. And I'm like, well, so what? Matt goes up and down the stairs every day at our house. Like, again, what's the big deal? And
Sure.
so I think that was probably the first thing that, I was like, why are you treating my brother any different than the rest of us?
I
A
think that's
little,
funny because I know you've seen the episode with Mom, but I think we were so sort of lockstep together that my first sort of recognition of being disabled was I asked Mom, when am I going to walk like Amy?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's true. And I would say, the other thing, I mean, we just always treated you like the annoying little brother you were, entertaining and annoying. And just like every other little brother in the world. But I think there was also a time when I was probably in 6th or 7th grade.
Yeah.
There was a lady, and I don't know if you'll remember or not, but you were riding your skateboard.
Okay.
And there was a lady across the street that wouldn't let her kids play with you because she was afraid they were going to catch what you had. And I can
Yeah.
just remember thinking and telling this lady off, which, we didn't talk to adults that way. And I was going off on this neighbor lady about how
Yeah,
ignorant
sure.
she was, that you have a physical disability and there's nothing wrong with you and your children can't catch what he has unless it's intelligence, and then you should be grateful. I just went off on this poor lady.
I love it. I love it.
And like I said, that was how we were raised. Nobody messed with my little brother. So I was just like, well, you
Yeah,
don't want to
sure.
play with those kids anyway.
So a lot of people that I've been talking to on the podcast were disabled later in life. So there might be people out there that have siblings that they're being introduced to a disability to a later age. Is there any advice you would give to them in terms of welcoming disability into the family?
I think, it's for anybody. I mean, you need to be there and be supportive, but not always try to fix and do everything for them. I think it's more
Yeah.
important to take the time and listen to what their unique issues are, listen to their hopes, their dreams, and then work with them to figure out how you can make that happen. It
Yeah.
may not be the way, we did so many things, you and I together,
Sure.
learn to play basketball. It's like, okay, we'll learn to play basketball. You want to, you want to square dance? Okay, we'll learn to square dance. We're going to swim. Okay, well, you don't have feet that can kick, but you got strong arms. We'll learn how to swim. So again, it's listening to what the person wants to do, and then maybe sitting with them and try to figure out what that's going to mean or what that's going to look like. Because again, playing basketball isn't going to look like me playing basketball as a kid. But if you want to play basketball, we're going to figure out how to do it.
Sure.
Skiing. Yeah, we can figure that out. And I don't know if you remember the people that had the little polk sleds that came to the Legal Society for the Handicapped,
That's
but
right.
it was the first people that I could figure out because I was a snow skier and I was like, yeah, my brother, put my brother in there. Well, we'll see what he can do.
In the
You
flatlands
know,
of Ohio, that was cross
yeah.
country skiing in a wheelchair
Cross
or
country skiing,
adaptive
not the
skiing is
best
not
idea,
much
but
use.
you wanted to ski, so it's the best I could
Yeah,
come up with at the time. So I would say, that is the biggest thing is to come alongside whoever it is and really listen to what they're struggling with and then take that and try to find something positive that you can make out of that situation.
that's great. That's great. Something else I wanted to ask you about your faith and your work with the church because, I feel like there's so many people out there that use religion as a crutch and don't necessarily practice what they're preaching. What I always admired about you is you're out there helping people. Where did that come from?
I think it's always been something inside of me. It's always been, what can you do? And I think some of it was just, growing up and working with the Society for the Handicapped at the time,
Yeah,
how can we make life better for these people? And that really wasn't faith based, but, I think I was very blessed, when I was in physician assistant school, that I started going to Trinity United Methodist in Gainesville, Florida
yeah,
with my classmates. And I love the fact that they had a very active youth program, but also that they are very focused on people and mission work. And, I was very fortunate to find my church home with them. And
sure.
like I said, I was very, very blessed to have that there. And then they, it's where I did my first mission trip back in Hurricane Katrina. It was
Yeah,
nothing medical, but I went and helped refurbish houses that were destroyed over in Louisiana,
sure.
and I took Rebecca with me. That was my first mission trip, and then the kids grew up in their youth program, and they did a lot of everything from vacation Bible school volunteering, which is pretty routine for most churches, but they also had programs where the kids were able to go into the Appalachian Mountains
Sure.
and do mission work on refurbishing homes in the Appalachian Mountains. And then they had the youth medical mission trip. And that's where we as a family kind of got involved for many years because with 4 kids spread
Sure.
9 years apart, there was a lot of medical mission trips that we went on, most of them to Nicaragua and Guatemala. And I think the kids went with their dad to Dominican Republic once. But it was nice to be able to bring that servanthood.
Sure.
It was easy to tap into.
Now, what was in the medical mission trips outside of the United States? What
Mhm.
was the biggest surprise when you got there?
I think the biggest surprise was really that I felt like I came home with much more than I took or I gave. And I really didn't expect to be filled up personally. I'm going to go and give and give and give. But you actually come home and you feel so fulfilled for helping and doing what you can to help other people.
Can you give me an example of something that really moved you that kind of sticks in your brain to this day?
Gosh, there's so many. Just bringing care to people that maybe hadn't had the ability to see a medical provider in a year and just being able
Wow.
to give them treatment for, they don't drink clean water. So to treat parasites and give, pregnant women prenatal vitamins to help them have healthier babies, to, you know, help people with their diabetes and their hypertension, all of that. And I think, it's very fulfilling as well. And I was just saying a little bit before that, growing up on a farm, we had outhouses and, we didn't grow up cushy.
Yeah,
My
sure.
kids grew up with their own rooms and their own bathrooms pretty much. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's always interesting when we did the youth medical mission trips, when we would take the kids from a very kind of posh growing up, they were
Yeah,
pretty privileged, and take them out to a place that is, an hour bus ride from a small town in
sure.
Guatemala, and they have to go to the bathroom. And you're
Yeah,
like, well, La Baña is up there on the hill, and it's like, an outhouse that has like sometimes it has a door, sometimes it has a seat, sometimes it's just a hole in the ground, and it's like, yeah, no. And I'm like, well, remember that bouncy hour ride to get here? it's the same bouncy hour ride back, and you better go to the bathroom. And it's so funny to see them, like, hey, I can do this,
Sure.
and seeing them understand that, maybe their life problems are in a different level than what these people who are dressed up in their Sunday best to come see
Sure.
you, maybe bathed in the cistern on the way into town,
Yep.
and they're joyful and they're happy, and they'll wait
Yeah.
for an hour, 2 hours, wait the whole day to come see you because you're here as a volunteer to help them, and they're
Yeah.
grateful.
Provides that perspective that you're
Yeah,
not going to get sitting in
exactly.
your house at home.
Exactly.
I think that's wonderful. I know you continue to do that. You have one coming up right next year.
I just got back. I just got back from Guatemala.
Yeah.
It's been about 2 weeks. Yeah, this is my second week. I got back not quite 2 weeks ago from Guatemala. Then I'm going again. I just set the date for our mission trip next year. So, a lot of times people are afraid. And I think that was something else that we were going to touch on a little bit, but people are afraid to look and see what's out there. And I'm like, if you never go, you'll never know what you're missing. So you gotta get out of your comfort zone. You gotta do
You
what you can do.
And it's great that you recruit others to get that experience. I want to talk a little bit about your first responder work because obviously Florida continues to get pounded by hurricanes, and it seems like you're always there to sort of pick up the pieces. What's the first thing that you need to do, and what's the most helpful thing you can do?
Well, the first thing that people need to do is be prepared and evacuate when they tell you to get out, because sometimes it's a bigger mess than you think. There are people out there, and unfortunately, a lot of the political help is slow. And
Yeah,
so they find that the more rapid response, and again, through the United Methodist Church, they have what's called UMCOR, a sponsored program, and we have the early response team, and we have to go through training, and we have our little badges. So we get in even before like the Red Cross. Gainesville is uniquely located right where the panhandle of Florida meets the peninsula. And so we're right in the middle of everything where everybody hits, but we can also get places
sure.
fairly easily, but we're not coastal. And
Yeah,
so like when it hits Cedar Key, we can get there and we can go out for the day and come home and sleep in our own bed
yeah,
and restock and go back the next morning. But it's heartbreaking because these people, their houses flood up and you don't realize, but that all has to be cleaned out. And I
sure.
mean, it's all the appliances have to go, the kitchen cupboards have to go. It's like
Yeah,
you got to tear off drywall, you got to tear out
yeah,
the insulation, you got to tear up floorboards because you don't want the mildew to start. And so the
yeah,
quicker you can get in and tear that stuff out, the better. So we go in through the early response team, through UMCOR, and we do what we can. It's not really a rebuilding program. It's more of a gut and muck.
yep,
So you're in there dragging stuff out, getting going through whatever's in the closet that got flooded. What are we keeping? What are we not?
sure.
But it's a lot of, quick work, and then it doesn't cost them anything. So their insurance money then can help with the rebuild and the treatments and stuff that are going to be needed next.
That's great.
So it's like a 3-day, usually, quick get in,
Yep,
teams are somewhere around 6 to 10 people, and we can have multiple teams if needed. But we have a trailer and a truck that pulls it from the church. And so it's a
yeah,
funded program through our church that has the supplies. But yeah,
that's
it's,
great. And that's wonderful work you do, and, God bless you for that.
yeah, it's hot and
Um,
gross, but it's needed.
reality is it's hot and gross. That's
Yep.
great.
It's hot and
Um,
gross. You're pulling off nasty, wet
okay, now
stuff.
speaking of gross, I thought we'd have some fun because you've got the best stories because of all the things that you're involved in with, the sort of rural clinic that you have, some of the crazy patients. Do you have anything that comes to mind that's like either the scariest thing you've seen or the silliest thing you've seen?
Scariest thing I think I've ever seen is my little brother laying in an ICU bed.
I'm
That
so glad your entire career I scared you the most.
that
God, I'm so
was,
sorry for that.
you know, I think a lot of the times the stuff that I see and you deal with is just, like, okay, well, we're going to buckle down, we're going to do what we can. But I think it gave me a different perspective because I wasn't in charge of your care. I
Sure.
was I was coming in as a visitor and you were looped out of it on a
Yep.
ventilator. And I honestly don't know that I've taken care of anybody personally that was circling the drain that close to death that did not die.
Yeah.
And that was scary. And I don't know if you remember or not, but the last thing I said to you is I was like, you cannot die and you've got to keep fighting. And you were just, I don't even know if you even remember me being in the
Really?
ICU to visit
Oh,
you,
I
but you
totally
were,
remember you. I
you were on
remember
your
that.
ventilator. You
And
couldn't talk. It took me an hour and a half to figure out what the heck you were saying. And you were trying to figure out where your wheelchair was. And I was like, after
yeah.
an hour and a half, I'm like, dude, you aren't even going to get in your
Yeah.
wheelchair anytime soon. It's at home. It's fine.
I
You
know. I
know?
just wanted to get the hell out of there. And it's like,
Yep. I was
dude,
like, no,
you don't have
no.
a broken arm. Things are worse than you think.
Yes.
God. So that actually is a nice lead into the next question, which everybody eventually is going to be a patient. And what would you advise people to do to be a better patient when they interact with their healthcare provider?
Good patients. Good patients keep their scheduled follow-up visits. They keep their routine annual physicals. They do what their provider tells them to do. They take their medicine like they're supposed to, and they're honest with their providers. It's always surprising to me how people just, they come in to see you because they're sick or they want you to help them, and then they lie to you. Like, I'm taking my medicine, or, oh no, I don't smoke. And I'm like, you smell like smoke. It's like, I saw you smoking in the parking lot. It's like, be honest with your providers. Tell them truly what's going on, what your real symptoms are, and do your best to take care of yourself.
Yes.
That's the thing is that would make everybody in medicine's life a whole lot easier.
That is a great suggestion. So you've been doing a lot of traveling recently.
Yes.
And you were the first one of our family to leave the United States, which was very cool when you went to France. But now looking back, and this could be in the United States or around the world, what is the best trip that you've taken?
The best trip is the one yet to take. I would
Nice.
say, I love the adventure. I love to see new things. And I always, on all my trips, I always tell people, I'm like, well, I got to go. I had some health problems and wasn't
Sure.
able to get around really well, but I've had neck and back surgery. But now I can hike to the bottom of the waterfall. May not be pretty, but I can get down there.
Getting it
And,
done.
and I'm like, I got to climb over, like I was in Greece. I'm like, I got to go climb over those ruins because, the Greeks or whoever, the Turks or whoever knocked them down. It's like, I'm not going to come back. I got too many other things to see before I die. So I gotta, keep the adventure going. So
That's right. That's a great answer. And then, as you probably know, I close these episodes by asking my guest if I were to clone you and there were two Amy Sterlings in front of me, what question would I ask to reveal the real Amy Sterling?
how would I change the world?
Oh, how would you change the world?
One day at a time.
Yes, baby
That
steps,
that
right?
would be the real Amy Sterling response, because I think if everybody would look around them and try to do just a little bit to make the world around you just a little bit better every day, I think we would all be amazed at how much difference, you add that all together, how much difference that would make.
I think that resonates now more than ever. Amy, I never get to tell you this, but I love you. There have been so many times that you've helped me. It's countless at this point. And I do remember when you told me I couldn't die. And that's
You
why I'm
cannot
here
die.
today, is I do what my sister tells me to do.
That's right.
So
That's
I
right.
just
Do what
wanted
your
to say
sister
thank
tells you.
And I love you so much. And, hug those kids when you see them.
I will. And I
All
love
right,
you too.
thanks.
You know that, though.
Absolutely. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope you'll click like and subscribe so you can meet the mighty.